Just so no one can accuse me of false advertising, this one's going to be mostly a shill episode, meaning that it mainly exists to promote my books, although I do think it holds some genuine intellectual value beyond that objective scope. I wouldn't publish it if I didn't. In any event, with that obligatory disclaimer out of the way, much has been made, both here on YouTube and elsewhere, over the last 100 years or so about the concept of speculative biology. Though more a philosophical exercise than a hard science, this ever-deepening hobby space presents us with the simplest, and yet most seemingly fathomless question known to mankind. What if? Specifically, what if dinosaurs never went extinct? What if insert non-human animal here became sentient? What if life were based on silicon rather than carbon? The great thing about this, in my opinion, is that, as it is essentially science fantasy, you can be as grounded or as spectacular as you want with both your premises and your conclusions. Go see my Project Outlander video for an example of the latter. If you want more of a taste of just how deep this rabbit hole really is, I'll put a link in the description to a video by a channel called Curious Archive, where he breaks down the history of the concept, from the mythological chimera to medieval bestiaries to H.G. Wells to Dougal Dixon. However, that's not what I want to tell you about right now. You see, so far as I've been able to find, not a whole lot has become of what I'm choosing to dub speculative psychology, which, as the name suggests, is a scientifically rooted philosophical enterprise whose goal is to transcend our boring human perspective on the universe by imagining what it would be like to exist as a thing wholly evolutionarily distinct from human. And so, naturally, seeing as how it was what first put this channel on the map, it seems only right that my first test subject should be one of an anthropomorphic variety, or furry, for those who are so inclined. Now, it's worth noting at this point that in order to understand the mind of any creature, human or otherwise, we must also understand its body, since you can't really have one without the other. And so, for the sake of simplicity, and for keeping this video from going full fur affinity, we're going to go with a werewolf hybrid form. That is, a mostly human core blended into wolfen head and limbs with potentially a tail thrown in as well. And with that in mind, where and or how would such a creature come from in the first place? Well, there's actually a surprising variety of possible answers. Perhaps most obvious, if not the most original, being that it was a lab-grown chimeran experiment, or that a magic being, force or spell somehow impelled a human and a wolf to copulate, and from their union emerged a mutant whose very existence defied all attempts at a scientific explanation. Whatever scenario you choose to believe is the case, the common result is an egalitarian hybrid of human and wolfen psychological traits and patterns. So, what would that look like? In my view, probably not wholly dissimilar to what we're accustomed to, at least on the behavioral front, as the only standout feature of the latter's cerebral matrix is their increased reliance on olfactory and auditory as opposed to exclusively visual processing. Likewise, a wolf pack's social structure isn't all that dissimilar to that of our own original hunter-gatherer tribes, so it seems to me a werewolf, which I'll remind you literally means man-wolf, would be about as close to human in the cerebral department as any animal on Earth, which may go a long way towards explaining why it's one of the most popular choices of fursona out there. That, and the fact that wolves are basically just larger, more independently minded dogs, and so are the best of both worlds. But yeah, I think you all get the idea by now, so I'll cut myself off here before I start to ramble too much. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if this sort of thing suits your fancy, maybe also leave a like and subscribe, check out my books, linked in the description, consider leaving a super thanks tip and what have you, and until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and remember, in the words of a canned pirate that may or may not go by Flint, and may or may not also be my original creation, gold buys slaves, steel buys power, and blood buys freedom. Peace be with you.